Hello, Holy Cross community, and welcome to our episode of Turn the Tables, Cooking for Your Parents in Pandemic. And this week we're making a super simple salmon that's going to be seasoned with some Old Bay seasoning and then put over some lemony mashed peas. Now it sounds sort of high class, right? Like it's like a fancy dinner, but I assure you this will give you a good feeling for what it's like to cook salmon, as well as just a simple dish that you can impress someone with. So if you have a special occasion coming up, this is a great recipe for that, and it's super simple. So that's why I'm very eager to share it with you today. And salmon is one of my favorite fishes to cook. Okay, so I have mise en place. I have my frozen peas here, my frozen green peas, and I'm going to use half of this. I've already used half of it already, so I'm going to use a pound. There we go, of green peas. And yeah, so let's get going. I have a saucepan over here. I have a saucepan with a couple cups of water, enough to cover your peas. So I have the water in there already, and I'm actually going to bring it to a boil. Okay, I'm going to put this down a little bit. Here we go. So I'm going to bring this over to my stove, and I'm going to set this to boil. I love my induction because it has a quick boil setting, so it actually happens quite quickly. So once it boils, I will put the peas in. So that's all ready. Like I said, this is going to be super simple. You need a mixer, a stand-up mixer here, and I'm just going to put in here the ingredients for the lemony peas. So once the peas are done cooking or heating through, that'll take about 5 minutes, and then we're actually going to put everything in here for that lemony pea bed that we're going to put on a nice platter. I definitely encourage you to put it on a nice serving platter, so it's even that much more impressive. So we're in this, into your container here, you're going to put sour cream. So you can use sour cream. I actually use Greek yogurt because I don't like having too many things around. So for me, Greek yogurt serves as yogurt in the morning, sour cream, and it could substitute as creme fraiche. The recipe that I'm following, it did call for creme fraiche, but Greek yogurt is perfect. So I'm using that. So into our thing here, we are going to put a 1/4 cup of that Greek yogurt. And now they're called lemony mashed peas for a reason, right? Because we're going to use some lemon zest. So I have a few lemons here. I may only need one, but I always like to have a few extra lemons because I never know how much juice I'm going to get out of it. And we need a 1/2 teaspoon of zest. So this is a zester. And I think a funny story about this that I read one time, this is called a microplane. So in construction or woodworking, there's also something called a microplane to get, I guess, to file down wood. I'm probably saying this incorrectly, but a woman was married to a man who was a woodworker, and she wanted to zest something, and she's like, the microplane that he uses for woodworking would work really well, and then hence the microplane was invented for the kitchen. Bet you didn't know you're going to learn something here too, right? Well, besides cooking. All right, so 1/2 teaspoon of zest. You know what? I usually put in a little bit extra zest. I love lemon flavored anything. So as you can see, the zest sort of gathers itself in the opposite side from where you're holding it against the lemon. And you can just pop that in there, all right? So about 1/2 teaspoon. And then we're going to need the juice of the lemon. Let me check my water. We're almost boiling. Actually, close enough. I'm going to put my peas in. So I've got 16 ounces or a pound of frozen peas. I'm going to put those in there, and we will cook those for about 5 minutes. So I'll put a timer on. Okay? Easy peasy. I'm going to use that a couple times right now. So we have our zest in here, and now we need our juice. So I'm going to put the camera down here for a second to show you something. So when you're juicing a lemon, to release the membranes inside, you can use the palm of your hand and just push it against whatever surface you're working on. I have this wood island here, so I like to just use it as a cutting board sometimes. So you can feel it got a little bit softer, okay? And then you're gonna cut it, and then I highly recommend a juice squeezer, all right? So you can use that for lemons or limes. I'm gonna grab a container to juice my lemon into, and you just pop this in, the flesh side down, and then just juice your lemon. And we need about 3 tablespoons, so I don't know how juicy this lemon's gonna be, but we've tried to coax it out of it, so we'll see. I think I might need another lemon. But you know what? Let's see how much I have here. And avoid getting those seeds in there. So I have 1. I'm just gonna discard a seed. Hold on 1 second. Don't want the seed in there. 2. Oh, I think I made it. 3. Okay. So we've got 3 tablespoons in there. And then we want to also add in some salt and pepper. So we want to add in, let's see, I would do a couple grounds of pepper, maybe like 1/4 teaspoon. And then also a 1/4 teaspoon, I will measure it out because I don't want to put too much salt in today. 1/4 teaspoon of your kosher salt or fine sea salt. I mean, really, it's a small amount, so whatever kind of salt you have at home. Let's check our peas. Give them a little stir. And before we discard the water that the peas are cooking in, we want to reserve a 1/4 cup of that because that will help to liquefy our peas when we put them in our blender. So you want to make sure you're not just dumping out all the water, that you're reserving a 1/4 cup, but I will show you how to do that. Okay, so our peas have sufficiently cooked for 5 minutes. And remember what I said, we're going to keep a 1/4 cup of that water. So I'm just going to use my ladle and get out a ladle full of water without trying to get any peas in there. easier said than done. Maybe if I go along the rim right here, it'll work. Okay, got a couple peas in there, that's okay. So we want about a quarter cup. There we go. All right, so that's all we need from that. And now I will strain the peas over the sink where that is very hot and steamy. Okay, so I have my peas. Get all the water out, and I'm gonna grab my blender container, and I'm gonna put those peas right in there. Okay, so as a refresher, what do we have in here? We have our Greek yogurt. You could also use sour cream. We have our Greek yogurt, salt and pepper, lemon zest, and lemon juice, and now we just added the hot peas, and then I'm gonna put in the quarter cup of reserved water that we cooked the peas in. Okay? And now we are going to blend this. Now, when blending hot things, you do want to be careful, although this one's not very high up the container, but you want to be very careful about putting your hand over it. I do have something on here, but a plastic top, but sometimes you just be careful, you might want to put a towel on top of there, okay? So we are going to try this. There we go. All right. So this bed of lemony peas that we're creating is very impressive and very easy. And it's almost like, mashed potatoes are easy and delicious and can serve as a bed for meat or fish or something. But this is also a great way to work in some veggies and have an impressive display. All right, so that's done. That's like half the recipe. Now we're going to move on to our salmon, which we are going to pan cook over here. So I'm going to heat up some olive oil over here on I'm using a non-stick, probably about a 10-inch saute pan, and I'm going to heat up a tablespoon. I usually put in a little bit more because I really don't want to deal with anything sticking, but I'll try to show you a few tricks, and I'm going to turn this on a medium-high heat. If it's going to cooperate with me, let's see. Okay. So I'm going to let that heat until the oil is shimmering. It almost creates like these little waves because you want it to be hot when you put the fish on. That way the fish won't stick. But let's deal with seasoning the fish, okay? We have our I'm just doing 2 fillets right now, and my fillets actually already are, do not have the skin on them, but you can tell what the skin side is. It's darker, and it's the flat side, whereas the fillet, the flesh side is the side that's usually meatier. So we're going to season this with some Old Bay seasoning. Now, the best kind of recipe is one that uses a seasoning that's already has a lot of seasonings in it. I believe this has about like 18 spices in it. So if you've never used Old Bay, it's great on just about any kind of protein. I mean, meat, fish, especially like if you go have crab someplace, like in Maryland in the summer, they use Old Bay on it. So we're going to use about a teaspoon. Here, I'll steer this down again. About a teaspoon, and I'm just sprinkling it on the non-skin side. And you can be liberal with this because this is the only seasoning that you're putting on. And it may seem like a lot when you're sprinkling it, but a teaspoon of seasoning when you're sprinkling out takes a bit of time to get on there. But like I want to point out how easy this recipe is. So we've got our Old Bay on there. If you had 4 fillets, I'd probably do about 2 teaspoons, but I have 2, so I did about 1 teaspoon. So we're heating up the oil. We're going to make sure it is very hot and shimmering. So I'm going to see how our oil is up here right now. We're getting there. I might even put up a little higher. But you can smell the oil. If you're using olive oil, you can smell it. It starts to heat up. So I'm going to bring my fish over here. And I can see it's really coating the bottom. If I go like this, it's moving quickly. Not like when I just put it on. So it's nice and hot. Let it heat up again. And we're gonna put it. We're gonna put the fish in to the skillet as if the skin side were up. I don't have skin on mine, but if you do, it'll make it easier. Put the skin side up. Let's see. I want to hear a sizzle when I put it on, so I'm going to hold off for a second. You want to hear that sizzle. When the side of the salmon hits there, you should hear a bit of a sizzle. Let's try it again. Oh. Can you hear that? I can hear the sizzle. All right, so I'm going to lay those in there. Again, skin side up. And I'm going to leave it pretty much undisturbed, although I'm going to say about a minute into it, I'm going to give the pan a little shake. I didn't realize this was in the way. I'm going to give the pan a little shake so that I know the salmon's not sticking to the bottom, because that's the worst thing ever, as we found with the tortilla española that I recently did. If you were watching that episode, you want to make sure that oil is under there and keeping it from sticking to the bottom. All right, so we're going to cook the salmon for about 6 to 7 minutes total. When we get closer, I'm going to show you how to, so about 6 to 7 minutes, when we get closer to that time, I will show you how to test for doneness. Okay, so we're about a minute in, and I'm just going to, if you can see, I can move the salmon pretty freely on here. This is so hard to show you. But my salmon will move around, and I want to make sure it's not sticking, so I gave it a good jiggle. I'm going to leave it alone again, and I'm going to flip it in about 2 more minutes. I'm actually going to talk about doneness even before we're anywhere near there. Feel the salmon right now. It feels cold and soft still, right? Because we just started cooking it about a minute and a half ago. I want you to keep that in your head, and then you're going to touch it again when you get closer to the instructions on the. If you're following a recipe, this goes for cooking salmon in any recipe. You'll want to start feeling it for doneness, but you can also take its temperature for internal temperatures. For food safety, you want to make sure you cook. This is just a meat thermometer. So you want to make sure you cook your salmon in the thickest part to 145. So I'm going to get ready to flip it over soon. Check if it's got some good color. It does. You see that? It's cooking very nicely and it's not sticking. All right, I'm going to turn it over. So you can see it goes from like a reddish pink to almost like a pale pink, I guess, when it's cooked on that side, but now it has to cook on the other side. And you can feel it. It's still very, when you push down on it, it's very easy to push into it. It's not done yet. All right, the salmon, I just flipped it over. We can continue on with, I'm going to lose a lemon here. We can continue on with getting everything else ready. So I have some fresh thyme here. I love thyme. And we're just going to get a couple teaspoons, but I'll show you how to get it off the branch or twig, whatever you want to call it. So fresh thyme looks like this. Okay, you want the leaves. You don't want the woody part, okay? So you can hold it so the leaves are facing upwards and just go like this. All right, do you see some of the leaves come off? This could take a while, right? But we need about, I would say about 2 teaspoons. And that is just exactly how you're going to proceed with the rest of your little branches, okay? So again, just sort of stripping the branch down. Show you a couple. All right, so continue with that until you have about 2 teaspoons. All right, I just want to check on my salmon. So we have about a minute left of that 6-minute guesstimate. And I just want to shake it a little bit so it doesn't stick. And you can use some tongs just to gently grab both of the sides and sort of start to wiggle it a little bit. I really don't want it to stick. There we go. All right, and now if you get some of the oil underneath the fish, it won't stick. And you can let it continue to cook. Okay, so our 6-minute timer went off. So I'm going to check the salmon for doneness. And also make sure, once again, that we're not sticking. Now, you want to test the temperature in the thickest part of the salmon. So the center of the fillet is usually the thickest, like right around here. I will take our thermometer, our meat thermometer, and I'll stick it right in there. And it's going to about 120, 122. Okay, so what did I say we need to get to? 145. So I am going to actually put a lid on top to trap some of the heat. And I will check it again in 2 more minutes. But you should also be sensing that your salmon's getting a bit firmer, and you'll see it when it starts to get near being done. It will start to flake apart a little bit. So pay attention for those signs. All right, so we're coming up on this 2-minute timer that I'd set to recheck the temperature. And the salmon is not sticking, which is a good sign. I'm going to take it in the thickest part. Oh, I think we're going to get there. Yep, we got above 145. Here, I'll show you. So again, I'm taking it approximately in the same spot I took it last time. Well, you know what? Is it not? Maybe it's not there. Hold on. All right, well, now it's saying 130 something. I know that I took it away from the heat for a little bit, but I want to be safe. I don't want to serve undercooked fish to my guests, so we will let it go for, I'm going to let it go for another 30 seconds. I'm going to give it a quick little moment to heat up a little bit more. But in the meantime, we can put our peas, here, let's guide this down. So, try to find a nice platter. Mine has some chips in it, but it's been used and it's been loved and it's my favorite color. And we're just going to put the peas out onto the serving platter. Now, this is something you're going to want to do right before you serve it. You want to make sure your peas don't get cold and your salmon doesn't get cold. And of course, you could do this in individual dishes too, but I think it looks nice, especially if you have those 4 fillets, to put it out on the smashed peas. All right, I heard my salmon buzzer go off again. I'm going to give you one more try. Come on, you should be done. Yeah, we're there. So I'm going to actually bring my salmon right over here. Now, if you did have, so you can see it's starting to flake, right? It feels much firmer, and our temperature was correct. So we know we're done. All right. I'm going to try to do this gracefully, but I probably need to put this down. I need a spatula of some kind. Hold on one second. Because I want to try to prevent my fish from falling apart. I really like it when it does maintain that one piece. The fillet stays in one piece. So let me get I'm just cleaning off the spatula. All right, let's take that and get one piece at a time here. All right, there we go. So I'm going to take this over, put it in the peas. This other one might have, we'll see if we can keep it sort of together. All right. I'll take one piece over and then I'll add the other one. Sometimes you have to be a little inventive. And now we're actually going to, let's see, can I stick this on there? Sure I can. Get on there, baby. All right, now I'm going to keep the pan on the heat, and we actually have a little butter thyme sauce. That's why we got the thyme. So I'm going to put about a tablespoon of butter in the hot pan and let that heat up. All right, so the butter has melted. I'm going to add in, I actually just did a teaspoon of thyme because I only have those 2 fillets. And I'm going to put that in the melted butter. And you're really just going to swish it around, stir it around for about 30 seconds so it gets, you can start smelling the thyme. You can hear it popping. Ooh. All right, so the thyme has gotten quite fragrant, so I think it's time, get it? The thyme is fragrant, and it's time to put the butter and thyme sauce, here I'm actually going to flip this way, all over our salmon. So you get those nice green pops from the thyme, and they sort of blend well with the lemony peas in the bottom, but like that's something you can be proud to serve, right? To your parents, and serve it with some like crusty bread, maybe a salad, just a simple green salad. But I hope you enjoyed that. It's a really simple fish recipe. So if you've been afraid to cook any proteins or fish before, this should get you over the fear, and you could tackle it. So I want to make sure that you show me your final dishes. We are actually giving away a Holy Cross apron this week. So if you show your final product on the Facebook cooking page underneath where I posted this video, or if you want to send us a picture via Instagram message, you can do that. But we want to see it Thursday night, tonight, that you make it for your family and that you were prepared, you went out and got the groceries, you were excited, and you made it and you sat down to a family meal, and we want to see the pictures. And if you submit it, I will put you in a drawing to win one of these cool Holy Cross aprons. So thanks again for joining, and have a great day.